Governor Susana Martinez recently signed legislation passed by state lawmakers in a special session to fund capital outlay projects. But some items approved by lawmakers were vetoed by the governor. Each week here, we invite community leaders, former elected officials, and local leaders to talk about issues in the news. Let's get into those vetoes now. I'm joined today by Danielle Foley, former New Mexico Minority State House Whip. Marisa DeMarco, she hasn't been here forever, public health reporter from KUNM. Laura Sanchez-Rivey from Sanchez Legal Solutions, and Thomas Garrity with the Garrity Group PR. Now tell me, start with you. A whole list of things, it's one of those things where one man's 50 grand is worth it, another person's. It's like,
one man's pork is another man's treasure.
Exactly, all that kind of thing. And this is classic. I mean, she's not the first person to ever veto things, but what jumped out at you when you saw the list of things?
Well, a number of things. Actually, what jumped out at me was what wasn't cut, and I think provided some really good insight with regards to how the negotiations went down to get the final capital outlay bill. And that was, for the first time that I remember in recent history, Senate Majority Leader Michael Sanchez didn't have any cuts. I mean, all of his projects got through. In fact, House Majority Leader Nate Gentry actually had more cuts than Senator Sanchez. So I thought that was very interesting, and I think that who didn't get cut, that's a sign of who actually helped to shape the final deal that got capital outlay to that position.
But Marisa DeMarco, good to see you, by the way. Our friends at New Mexico In Depth have posited that 42 of the so-called cuts of the majority were funded by, or asked for by Democrats. Right. Should someone read something into that, or is this more about these individual items stand on their own?
So Martinez said in her veto message that she didn't care about party affiliation when she was making the cuts, but the vast majority of cuts that were made were requests that were made by Democrats. Now, I was at her victory speech when she was making it like a year or so ago, and she was talking about how she wanted to govern the whole state regardless of party. So I think the cuts, being majority Democrat, though, really ask the question about how those decisions are being made, and are they being made based on need?
Do you have a guess on that, Laura Sanchez-Rivey? Are there politics involved here?
Well, I think
I asked naively.
Right.
There's gambling in this establishment.
Right. There's always politics involved, but I think to me it was, in some ways, I couldn't really tell a pattern per se on the things that were vetoed. It seemed that there were a lot of Native American projects, a lot of chapter houses, and in Navajo that were projects that were vetoed, so they didn't make the cut. And then there were issues like she doesn't fund musical instruments, where she line itemed musical instruments and left other funding in place.
What was the reasoning behind the musical instruments? What was
Evidently, she just doesn't agree that capital outlay money should be used for musical instruments, although she allowed other equipment. So I think that to me reflects a personal bias or some kind. I don't know about personal, but her policy position is that shouldn't be used. Although I think a lot of people, and certainly I think the legislature has had a history of funding musical instruments, and it's part of a larger, providing enriching opportunities for students who can't afford to buy their own instruments. And I think that's an important segment of our population.
Yeah, exactly right. Dan Foley, good to see you. The governor also mentioned she's not comfortable with, on the musical instrument bit, where that money was coming from. Not necessarily from this pot of money, but another pot of money. She put a bit of a finer point on that, didn't she?
Well, this really kind of came to light at the end of Johnson, beginning of Richardson's administration. Utilizing what dollars for what? Utilizing severance tax dollars where you're going to be bonding money for things that aren't going to last the length of the bond. And then using general fund money to try to fund the things that aren't going to be needed. Because, it's kind of like buying something with a credit card that you're going to replace 2 years from now, but you're going to pay for it for 7 or 8 years. I think that she stayed fairly consistent on her message that they want to fully fund projects. The days of we want to build a new football field, so we need $10,000 to do the study, and next year we need $10,000 to redo the study. And 8 years later, you've put $100,000 into a $200,000 project and haven't broken ground. She's been very consistent about saying, I want this money to go to projects that are going to come fully to fruition. The other thing you got to remember about the legislators and my good friends on both sides of the legislature, they can introduce anything they want for capital outlay. They can put anything they want into the capital outlay bill. But then sometimes they run amok of the anti-donation clause and things like that. Like, can we give money to something that's not owned by the state? For instance, can they spend state tax dollars to redo a chapter house that doesn't belong to the state of New Mexico? It belongs to the chapter, the Navajo Nation. There's questions about anti-donation laws, anti-donation clause, things that rises to the level of concern that's really, and quite frankly, I was in the legislature, regardless of party, you would introduce your legislation to make your constituents happy. You would let them come up and have their say, and then you hope that the governor's going to go through and do that stuff so you can go back and say, I introduced it, it passed, I did the best I could for you, even though you knew going into it you could never give them the money for that.
That's right. And Tom, it's interesting, in her message, the governor also made mention that some of these projects didn't really necessarily need the money per se. When they would check on these things, they were getting feedback from folks saying, what Dan just pointed out, it was an ask, but it wasn't necessarily an ask that as you might seem on the surface, so to speak. What do you make of that?
Yeah, well, an organization or one area that's really been making asks for a number of years has been the judiciary.
Yes.
And one of the areas that gets, I guess, they're just getting shelled. I mean, when it comes to capital outlay projects, the courts have fared the worst every single time. In addition to Native American projects that Laura pointed out.
And the courts should be faring the worst, by the way.
Well,
That's your opinion.
that's your opinion. I think, when you have the executive branch that's really impacting how the judiciary can do its work by basically not approving projects and upgrades, that's a real kind of, that's an injustice right there.
Right.
And then, but to Dan's point, our system works as far as with legislators actually driving the process. I was really glad to see that the projects suggested by legislators were actually getting some good consideration. What doesn't work, though, and this was brought up earlier this week by Senator John Arthur Smith, are how those capital outlay funds are not being spent.
Gotcha.
He mentioned to LFC earlier this week $1.5 billion of monies that have just not been utilized yet. That's insane when you think about all the economic development, $1.5 billion, and that's for a number of different reasons. It's, DFA, Department of Finance Administration, it could be the paperwork. In fact, there's just a lot of different items, and some of it, the legislators really should be shepherding all of these projects through, and perhaps that's not happening either.
Marisa, pick up on that if you would, especially with the second judicial stuff. Something seems broken here in this relationship.
Well, the thing that's really striking me while you guys are talking is that I think to the average person, it doesn't make sense that people are asking for things that they don't need, or that legislators are asking for things that they don't anticipate receiving. I think, especially when you consider how short we are on cash, that really it's a surprise that it's not going to things, based on need and based on where people really need resources to build things in their communities. So it seems like there's kind of this whole game afoot with the expectation of a game, like the expectation is that things are going to shake out this way, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense to the taxpayer.
It makes sense here at the table, as you describe it. Exactly right. Did I just hear you say the courts should assume some of the blame here? Did I just hear that correctly?
This whole griping thing with the courts has been going on for years. The courts don't like their building. They don't think it's furnished to their expectations. They have a hearing. They say we're going to stop hearing
Should they
cases.
expect furniture?
They should, but you should. These courthouses. There's not a courthouse in this state that you don't walk into after they do a remodel that isn't a Taj Mahal palace. These guys have got offices the size of CEOs. They've got
Have you been to the
amounts
Luna
of
County
stuff.
Courthouse?
I haven't been to Luna County Courthouse, but maybe Michael Sanchez and those guys should fix the Luna County Courthouse. But most importantly, these big judicial districts, these big districts are these big district courthouses, these state courthouses. It was a battle when I was in the legislature. They're never happy. They want the courthouse built, so you add on to the courthouse. They don't like it. They want it done more. We had a problem in Chaves County where we rebuilt the courthouse, furnished the courthouse. The judges didn't like it, refused to go in there. We're not going until you refurnish it. So it's just, this is an ego battle, and it's costing the taxpayers millions and millions of dollars. And at the end of the day, this whole process, there's not a coordinated effort unless you're going to let the governor be the one that decides, here's the statewide issues. The Little League field in Chaves County is important to the people in Chaves County. Now, they may be asking for $18 million to build a no Little League field, but you can't get them $18 million. But you can get them some money to help them get started. So you put in the request for $18 million, and you get what you can out of it. This whole idea that there's this big game afoot that it isn't working out, you should get out to the cities and see the work that is being done.
Let me finish with Laura Sanchez-Rivera on this, on the courthouse thing. I mean, other state agencies have requests for their stuff, furniture, offices, whatever. Why are these folks always treated so differently with their requests? Seems like they're always treated like they're pigs,
Well,
like
I
they're
think this
grabbing for something.
administration treats the courts differently. I think from the beginning there has been this, drawing of a line in the sand in terms of the politics of this administration and the judiciary, and it just continues to get worse. And I think that's unfortunate because she came from a DA's office where she was interacting with the judiciary on a daily basis. Her office was, in a very important position for that community and a very important part of the overall judicial system. And then to have this, conflict now with the judiciary is insane. And I think that, her administration should be above that. And they have tremendous need. I mean, they process, go through just a lot of cases on a daily basis, on a weekly basis.
That's right.
Obviously there's wear and tear that goes into furniture, but it's beyond that. It's funding for a lot of other things that I think we can see a pattern of not fully funding a lot of their priorities. And I think that's really unfortunate, and it's a disservice to our community.
Interesting. Up next, a local faith leader tells us how his congregation is responding to the recent shooting at the historically black church in Charleston.